Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So tier 19 is going to be coming with Legion, and while the entire of tier 19 is not available, I am actually able to show you a few different sets. And starting immediately off with the Paladin Mythic, I've got to say I think this one is extremely cool, and it's very much something that's going to fit the style of the Ashbringer, which brings me on to a wider point for a lot of these tier sets. I think they're definitely going to be taking the appearance of at least the default artifact weapon into account when they're designing these things. We've got a few different recolors as well. I particularly like that sort of silvery white one, and I think it could go really well with one of the Ashbringer variants, which I think it's kind of a more electrical based one. We move on here to the normal set. Normal is currently missing its helm, but you can see that overall a very nice set, very paladin looking. You can see some lessons have been learned from the Warlords of Draenor way of drawing armor, and I especially like the rich one with the red, the gold, and the white. Overall, very much a fan of the Paladin stuff. With that done, we move on to the Death Knights, and they're getting a set which absolutely looks, well, very Lich King-ish in a way, not really as dark in terms of having dark blue tones, but I think quite a nice set. It is missing the belt currently from what I can tell. And some of the colors, I think, do look just that little bit too messy for my liking. Yeah, it works with the artifact weapon, but it's almost too messy looking, I suppose, for me. Still, I do like it, and especially I think those shoulders are quite cool. However, they are slightly reminiscent of some of the shoulders that we got with the current tier, if memory serves me correctly. Next, we move on to the normal variant, which is quite similar. There's a few differences. As an example, those two little circles that are on the front and back of the shoulders don't have a skull on them in this version. The coloring doesn't look complete. I actually really am a fan of that red version of it. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid set. Not the best DK thing ever, but definitely a solid addition to their roster. And next we've got the Monk starting off with their Mythic set. I think this thing is really, really nice looking, and it's definitely a departure from, say, the monk gear that we would have seen in Mists of Pandaria, that really, it had a lot of extremely small, intricate details, which I think made a very cluttered look. One criticism of this, though, is that it's very aggressive looking. That probably won't fit what a lot of people like about the lore and the identity of a monk, but as a bit of leather armor, I do like it a lot. As we move on to this normal variant, though, the normal variant is, obviously it's a bit less flashy. I think still looking nice in the sense that I do like a nice bit of leather gear that's simple and that isn't completely absurd. However, I've got to question how much this is a piece of gear that actually looks like a monk. I mean, the only monkish thing is those chi orbs that are floating around, they're sort of on the shoulders there. But even at that, they're flanked by horned spikes. And yeah, this doesn't look like a bit of monk gear, I suppose, overall, but I do like it as a piece of leather gear. Next, we move on to the Hunters, and this is actually one of my favorite new sets. So we're starting off with the Mythic one here, and you'll probably notice it looks very much like a lot of their art with Sylvanas, which I think is absolutely an extremely good thing. Because of that, I think it does look better. Well, it looks a little bit goofy in the kind of the big, broad human male model. So yeah, it looks quite good in say a Blood Elf, which of course makes sense given the basis of this set of armor. I really like it though. This is appealing to me so much more than just about any other bit of Hunter gear. Next, we move on to the normal stuff, which just appears to have a bit less in the way of glowy things. Again though, this is really nice. First, it's mail armor that mostly looks like mail. It doesn't look like it's giant sheets of plate, which is a bonus over how Blizzard 2 things a lot of the time. It's kind of a little bit more slender and nimble, you could say. It doesn't have ridiculous big shoulders like, say, the Siege of Orgrimmar Hunter stuff. Overall, I think this really is fitting the class fantasy of a Hunter, and that's something which I don't really feel that much Hunter gear has done recently. I mean, I think some of the Warlord stuff worked, some didn't. The Tier 8 or the Siege of Orgrimmar Hunter gear was rubbish. This seems like a really good return to form that properly looks like mail armor, kind of marksman-like in a way. Very much one of my favorite sets. Next up, we've got the Rogues, and I've gotta say, between HFC and this, Rogues are just consistently getting bloody brilliant looking armor. This first one here is the Mythic variant. The only real difference between the Mythic one and the normal one is their slightly different line work. The Mythic one's kind of got sharp dagger edges. The normal one's a little bit more sleek looking, I suppose. There's it with the artifact weapons. I don't know, I'm still not the biggest fan of those artifact weapons, but overall, I think that's an extremely cool set of armor. It's also not glowing in a ridiculous manner, which does fit the rogues quite decently. Next, we move on to the normal ones, so you can see it's a little bit less over the top, but still, I think, a very, very nice set of gear for the rogues. I also imagine that this would transmog quite well with the Hellfire Citadel stuff if you wanted to make some sort of transmog that maybe crossed the bridge between the two. We move on to this green variant, which is, again, looking quite nice. And, yeah, it's funny with the rogues. It's as if they finally started, they finally made the decision to do rogue gear that mostly fits what a rogue feels like. Because for a while, rogues had ridiculous gear that had, lightning arcing across it and crazy glowing things. And while this still has a little bit of that, it does feel a lot more roguish. However, this white and grey one, I actually suspect a lot of people will like that. It doesn't feel particularly roguish to me. It looks very alliance-y, maybe too much so. Still, overall, that is a brilliant looking set. Next, we move on to the priests, and I actually think priests have got one of the strongest sets of armor in Legion so far. So this is the Mythic variant, and really what distinguishes the Mythic one is you've got that big thingy at the back. It probably looks a little bit funny in the video because of keying, but that's basically just a white glow that's coming off the mantle. And overall, the work here is brilliant, and what I really like is the cloth detailing. It actually looks like it's folded up cloth that's, well, looks like cloth, I suppose, which is a big, sort of improvement over how some of that gear used to be. So I think from a fidelity perspective, it really looks the part, and then from an artistic perspective, great lines, great flow, great use of color as well. I think that this is one of my favorite bits of gear that I've seen in Legion, hands down. As we move on to the normal and heroic variant, I'm a little bit less keen on the kind of plates that are going on, and but still, I think this is quite a nice set. I can see some people not being the biggest fan of the hood being so rounded. I think this would actually look a little bit better without the hood for some characters. Overall, though, it's looking very nice. Some great transmog options because the color palette and the visual theme of this, I think, will match with quite a few other priest sets. Priests are doing really well. Some of the priest gear that's came out recently has very much been up my alley. Overall, looking great. You've got a few variants there which look a little bit more Shadow Priestish, which is nice. One thing that is a little bit tricky, though, is we are seeing all of these color variants in the game files, but we don't actually know which ones will be the final bits of armor in-game. And finally, for this preview, we've got Warlocks. Once again, Warlocks you guys keep on lucking out and getting extremely cool looking armor. This is a brilliant looking set. Now, there is a variant of this, which we don't really have a 3D model of currently, that is a red version. It also looks fantastic. This is the purple version, looking brilliant, and you can see it there paired with the Affliction Warlock artifact weapon. They're a very good match. And yeah, just overall, I'm extremely impressed with what this looks like. It's maybe got me a little bit more excited to play a Warlock. Certainly the changes to Affliction actually have me quite a bit more interested in playing a Warlock. Next, we move on to the normal version. Now, the normal version of this is significantly more low-key in some areas, but I still think it's really nice. Maybe we still need to see the belt or one or two details with this. Though if you look at the shoulders and the helm, I think both are coming off extremely strong. And yeah, just once again, a brilliant Warlock set. I think this will transmog very well, especially that helm. That helm is going to give you some excellent transmog options, both for the normal and the Mythic variant, and I suppose the shoulders will as well. And that is it for this video. I just wanted to give everybody a bit of a look at this tier gear, because it's always fun to really talk about it. And what stands out to me the most is from what they've shown, or at least what's been included in the data mined files so far, this is looking to be one of my favorite tiers yet. We haven't seen it fully, but that Paladin set is outstanding. The Priest set is outstanding. The Warlock set is outstanding. The Hunter set is outstanding. We've got another brilliant Rogue set. They're coming out very strong with these sets. That's really nice because we've had some extremely patchy tiers. I suppose that it's almost a meme at this stage, and a new tier comes out and everyone says, oh, this is the worst tier yet. I saw a lot of that happen for the Hellfire Citadel tier, even though it does have some sets that I really like. I actually think the Warlord's launch tier was great. I think the Siege of Orgrimmar tier was particularly rubbish. It's just nice to see some really, really great sets. And I suppose from a slightly selfish perspective, I do play a Hunter, and having nice Hunter gear is almost a rarity in the game, and I'm extremely happy to see that a main bit of, tier gear for Hunters is looking great. That said, Warlords did bring some really nice MOG options for the Hunters, to give it its credit. But anyway, guys, that's it for me. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.